Okay, so the rise of the Nazis, 1918 through to 1933. Last time we were looking at Weimar Germany from 1918 to 1933. Now, as you remember when we do this, what happens to the Weimar Republic is going to affect the Nazis and vice versa. So let's get you thinking about those two parallel timelines. In 1923, we know Germany has problems. In 1923, it's no coincidence that the Nazis tried to take power in 1933. All right, so you've got to link the two lectures together. Okay? So, if we start off then, the key dates from what we learned last time. All right? Because the key dates from this history of Weimar are also the key dates to do with the rise of the Nazis. That makes sense? It's logical, isn't it? All right? So we got the end of the war in 1918. Remember, Hitler was in the hospital having the bandages removed from his eyes. Remember that in the film?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, 1919, Germany, the Weimar Republic signs the Treaty of Versailles. Yeah? Where they have no choice, but every German hates them for signing the Treaty of Versailles. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. We also have in 1919 the first attempt to get rid of the Weimar Republic because they were unpopular. That was the Spartacist Putsch in 1919. In 1920, because they're still unpopular, the right wing tried to overthrow the Weimar Republic. In 1923, we have the year of crisis. The occupation of the Ruhr and hyperinflation. 1924 to 1929, we have the golden years, when Germany recovers and Weimar is popular, which ends with the crash of 1929, and then we have 4 years until Hitler comes to power. Yes.
Is all of this on that film we watched?
All of it is, yes, it is.
What film was it?
Okay, The Rise of Evil.
What about the Munich Putsch?
The Munich Putsch is in 1923, the year of crisis, and that's what we'll deal with today. Okay, so those key dates. If you're there writing this down, are you writing it down because you think you need to be writing it down? Are you writing it down because you know it already? If you know it already, don't bother. Okay, but if you can remember those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dates, that's the framework, that's the skeleton around which we'll build up the rest of the story. Okay? So, what we need to find out today is the rise of the Nazis, which ends up with this scene in January 1933. There's Hitler, there's his deputy Goering, and they're on the balcony of the, I think it's the party building in Berlin. They're celebrating the fact that Hitler has just been made Chancellor, Prime Minister of Germany. Hindenburg has given Hitler the premiership, the Chancellorship of Germany. How does the Nazi Party go from being nothing to the rulers of Germany by 1933? Now we left with the last lecture we did with me telling you one thing for certain. If it weren't for the Wall Street crash, Hitler would not be there. Okay? It took that event, for all his skills and all his talents, it needed the Wall Street crash and the depression that followed to make Hitler Chancellor. Okay? As we go through this presentation, the smart ones amongst you, let's be thinking about the social reasons why Hitler becomes Chancellor, the economic reasons, and the political reasons why Hitler becomes Chancellor. Okay. So, the variety of things then. Why does Hitler become Chancellor in 1933? We've already discussed this one. The weaknesses of Weimar. Yeah, they were unpopular. Secondly, political maneuverings. That's where there's more depth to this story. Von Schleicher, von Papen, Hindenburg. Eventually, Hitler negotiates his way to become the Chancellor. The Nazis were organised for government, and the Nazis appealed to a lot of Germans. Extremely important. They were saying what people wanted to hear. Any of you remember the slogan that was on the poster?
Work, freedom and bread.
Work, bread and freedom. Yeah. Work, bread and freedom. That's what they kept it simple. They kept it straightforward and they got the message across. That, guys, is how bad things were in Germany in 1929 to 1933. He was offering people who had no food, bread, who had no jobs, work, who were fed up of choices, freedom from having to think. Work, bread and freedom. He got the message across and that appealed. Okay, next one. A very talented leader. A very, very talented leader. Again, from the films and the documentaries you've seen, he was totally in charge. There was no time for discussion in the Nazi Party. What Hitler wanted, Hitler got. Yeah, the Führer principle. Don't you think, you don't need to think, Hitler will do the thinking for you. So, he was a competent, qualified leader. He looked powerful, and that appealed to many Germans. Look what democracy had given them. Chaos and confusion. Propaganda. The Nazis knew how to get their message across. How did they do it? Tell me. How did they get their message across?
Speaking.
He was a great speaker.
Posters.
Posters.
Hitler.
The Hitler Youth, the marches, the parades, the use of the cinema, the use of music. The Nazis got their message across.
Radios as well.
Yeah, the use of the radio. Hitler flew everywhere in Germany so he could get his speeches to be heard by as many people as possible. I'm sure we said, if the iPod had existed back in 1930, Hitler would have been a podcaster. Yeah? If the internet had existed, Hitler would have been on YouTube. Yeah? He's very, very skillful at getting their message across. Okay? And then, very importantly, people were prepared to listen. During the golden years, they weren't. When the people felt wealthy and prosperous, they didn't listen. But after 1929, when people are losing their jobs and they are poor and the Weimar government and democracy can't help them, they start to listen to Hitler. Which comes back to what we talk about, the significance of the Wall Street crash. Without the crash, Hitler would have never become Chancellor. Okay? Make sure, guys, you have got those written down. Okay? These are the reasons why Hitler becomes Chancellor. It's not one reason, it's multi-causal reasons. There are multi-causal reasons why Hitler becomes Chancellor. Going for that C grade, guys, make sure you know at least 3 or 4 of those reasons. You're aiming for better than a C. Joe, you need to be looking at that and you need to be deciding, well, which is the most important and why. Weaknesses in Weimar, political maneuverings, Nazi organisation and appeal, leadership skills, propaganda, and then the depression.
Is that propaganda again? Is it like promoting?
Getting the message across, yeah, promoting your ideas.
What is political maneuvering?
That was the deals that were done in secret to get Hitler to become Chancellor. Matt, which is the most important one for why Hitler becomes Chancellor, in your opinion?
The depression.
You think the depression. Lewis?
Weimar weakness.
The weaknesses of Weimar. Provided you can tell me the case, and provided you can tell me the case, they're perfectly acceptable. I'd go with that one. But now that one's mentioned, I can see why that one's a good argument as well. Tom, which was the most important? The depression. So without the depression, Hitler wouldn't become Chancellor, in your opinion. Okay, let's move on. We can always come back to it. There's that great picture there of the depression. Yeah? A little bit of comprehension, guys. Jake, what's going on in that picture?
They're playing with money.
Right.
As they were building blocks.
The kids are using the money as building blocks. That's the comprehension. What can you infer from that?
Money was worthless.
Good boy. Right then. Okay, so the Depression itself. Let's look at it in a bit more detail. Okay, right. Depression was a gift to Hitler and the Nazis. Because for every problem the Depression gave Germany, the Nazis had an answer for it. All right? Democracy, Weimar couldn't cope with the Depression. They simply couldn't cope. It overwhelmed them. What did Hitler say? We need a strong leader. Don't leave it to these politicians who, because they're Democrats, have to talk and compromise and make deals with one another. Leave it to me. Yeah? You need a strong dictator. And Germans were open-minded to that because dictatorship is what they'd always been used to. The problem of unemployment. It said, I'll get you working. I'll give you jobs. Yeah? You can go and clean the parks. You can build the roads. You can clean the swimming pools. You can work in the libraries. You can work in the schools. I'll give you all jobs. After 4 years without a job, that must have been very, very appealing. If you're worried about communists, I'm definitely the right man. The communists were on the left. Hitler was on the extreme right. Okay, so the Depression, all of these problems, Hitler said, I am the man to deal with it. Okay. Propaganda. That's a typical Nazi poster. Yeah? Everyone in Germany watching the radio. Don't worry, they didn't build the radios that big. Okay? I don't speak any German, but it's a pretty simple tagline at the bottom. Yeah? Keep it simple, keep it straightforward. All right, so what did the Nazis do with propaganda that was so good? Okay? Well, Hitler in particular, but the Nazis as a whole, they could tune into what worried people. They were really in touch with what the people were worried about. Okay? And when they knew what the problem was, they got their solution across. Yeah? If you didn't read, they put their message out on the radio. If you did read, they put their message across in the newspapers. Okay? They got their message through to people. They got their message across. They were modern. They used new technology. Many older German politicians wouldn't have dreamed to have sat in front of a radio, to have used it to speak to people. They would have only conducted their interviews with newspapers and respectable newspapers, not the Nazis. They used the radio. They were effective makers of posters, mass rallies. They're parades that you remember them for. They got their message everywhere in Germany. Okay. Different examples of how their message got across. They're all simple posters. They've all got limited information. They get the message